All right, Town Council special meeting, February 5th, 2026, Cape Charles Civic Center. If I could get a roll call, please.
Newman present.
Buckholz present.
Grossman present.
Ashworth present.
Let it be known we have established a quorum. If we could all rise for a moment of silence and pledge allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, so public hearing, we still have none. Yes? Okay. All right, perfect. Any public comments?
No one has signed up, and nothing was received in writing ahead.
All right. So to number 6, order of business. We are going to have a presentation from the soft close of fiscal year 2025 budget. Oh,
All right, so I guess that's me. So just,
You need to come to the microphone so you may be heard on Facebook.
all right.
or take the microphone to you, whatever works.
I'm sure you prefer that.
No, I can get up there. Let me just make sure I've got all my paperwork that I need for this. All right, so are we good here? Olivia, you got good level here? All right. So just as a preliminary matter to this report, the town manager has asked if I give a brief overview of the procedure of closing a fiscal period, so that you all have a somewhat of an idea of kind of what goes into these numbers that, you know, will ultimately go into our audited financials that you'll see in a couple months here. The first thing we start with is verifying our equity, looking at the balance sheet, and making sure that the net position and fund balance agrees with the starting net position and fund balance agrees with the prior year's audit. So basically, that's just looking at the beginning of the fiscal year and making sure that we are starting the same place we left off at the end of our audited fiscal year. So the next thing we do is we look for any capital assets. So anything that the town purchased during the year that is considered a capital asset, we're going to add to our balance sheet, and we're going to start tracking that as a capital asset. We're going to start depreciating it in future years. So the next thing we do is we confirm that our cash accounts reconcile to the general ledger. So basically, we look at the actual bank accounts, the ending balance, and then we look at our general ledger and make sure that those actually match up. Then we look at accounts payable. This is basically money that we owe that we haven't paid yet. So it's basically a liability that we know we're going to have to pay, but haven't yet. So it's not going to be reflected in our cash balances on our accounts. Then we look at accounts receivable. It's basically the reverse. Money that is owed to us that we haven't received yet, and we make sure we're accounting for all of that. Then we look at our debt, so we'll just confirm that all the debt payments we made are reflected on our general ledger and that they agree with our loan statements from our lenders. I mean, for us, as you know, now that we've paid off much of the debt, that's pretty minimal, but we still do have a couple loans on police and public works vehicles. Then we look at deferred revenue. So that's basically, for example, you're familiar with the ARPA money. That was the biggest chunk of deferred revenue we had. It's grant money we received, but it's not technically ours yet until we spend it or do the work required by the grant. So that's money that's sitting in our bank account, but it's considered unearned revenue until we've actually done the underlying grant work. And then finally, we look at property taxes receivable and deferred, any other deferred property taxes. So basically, these are taxes that we've billed in the current year. They're owed to us, but we haven't collected them yet. Or at least at the end of the period, we hadn't collected them. If we collect them within 60 days of the end of the period, we do what's called an accrual, which is basically we move that money back to that current fiscal year, as long as it's collected within 60 days of the fiscal year. So I'm sure that made everybody want to fall right to sleep. I decided to spare you any more detail than that, but if anybody does have any questions, feel free to ask. Or, if you have a question just in general, you want to send it along to Rick, he'll pass it along to me, by email or whatever, and I can follow up and give you some more detail on those closing procedures.
Paul's wide awake on this one.
Yeah, I've already visited.
Yeah. Excited.
So if there are no questions, then I'll move on to this report here. All right, so the first page of the report, we've got fund balances and net positions. So I'm going to go back a little bit, but I want to skip first to the bottom line here, highlighted in yellow. FY25, I've got total fund balance here at $19,278,020. So that's the big number that I think is most relevant to you all from this report, is that's how much money the town has right now, or at least as of the end of FY25. So the most recent fiscal period that we've closed. So those are the funds that you have available to you. Now going back up, getting into a little bit more detail here, we've got all of our funds separated out, and then we've already had requests to simplify this somewhat. And so some of these funds we may be proposing getting rid of in FY27's budget, so that it simplifies this reporting a little bit and makes things easier to understand. The big year-to-year change, you'll see the biggest one, at least from 23 to 24 fiscal year, that is this big increase of around $15 million, which we're seeing from the utility sale. And so going into a little bit more detail here, general fund has a fund balance of $18,508,421. Capital fund currently sitting at 1.5, basically 1.5 million, almost 1.6 million. Special activities fund, little deficit there of 173,982, and then debt service fund with a small deficit there of just over 16,000. Moving down to the proprietary funds here, so the key difference, and you may have heard this from me multiple times already, so I apologize if you have. Key difference between the proprietary funds and the governmental funds is the proprietary funds engage in business type activity, not the delivery of core governmental services. And they actually use different accounting methods. So you'll notice, it's explained a little bit in the note here, and you'll notice that the governmental funds have a fund balance and the proprietary funds have a net position. And the key difference for our purposes between those two is that net position includes the net investment in capital assets. So for example, net position within the utility fund previously included all of our water and sewage plants. In terms of capital assets currently in these funds, the major one we have is all of the harbor infrastructure, docks and breakwaters, etc. So if you actually look at your audit in the government-wide financial statements, a lot of this, these investments in capital assets are gonna be included in your total net position. So what I've shown here to make things a little bit more clear is in gray, just beneath, so where it says utility fund, and then underneath that you'll see that line highlighted in gray, it says less net investment in capital assets. So that is showing the fund balance of each of these funds without the capital assets. So utility fund, you'll see the two numbers are the same because we've sold those capital assets. And the same with the sanitation fund. The key difference here, the key thing to pull out here is the harbor fund. The harbor fund, if you include those capital assets, looks like it has almost $4.8 million. But the reality is most of that is the harbor infrastructure. In fact, not most of it, but more than that $4.7 million is the harbor infrastructure. So if we're just looking at cash, the harbor fund would technically have a deficit. And so that is kind of what I've tried to present here is basically the bottom line here, that 19.278 million is cash and investments that are actually available to be spent, not things that you would have to sell your town docks, in order to actually make use of that money. So any questions about that page from anyone? All right, so moving on here to page 2, I am just showing the revenues and expenditures in each fund. And a little note here explains some things that I've excluded to give a better picture of what the actual operating surplus or deficit is, as the case may be. So general fund for FY25 had a $448,000, 145 surplus. Capital fund, $433,038. Debt service fund, a negative $16,032. Special activities fund, which is just, this is one of the funds we are proposing to do away with. This is basically used to pass grant money through. It was originally set up with the idea that a large chunk of ARPA money would distort the picture of the revenues within the general fund. But since we have already spent that money and the few, I won't say few remaining grants, but the remaining grants are small enough compared to the size of our general fund budget that I don't think it makes sense to maintain that special activities fund. So just a little note there. Utility fund. So the utility fund as well, we still did have some expenses, and we have some dividends collected by the utility fund because we did have some investment accounts within the utility fund itself. So something going forward, I think that we may propose is an actual final closeout of the utility fund to reconcile those few remaining items and sweep that money out into the general fund balance. Harbor fund. So just to highlight the harbor fund here, FY25 was our first, the town's first time taking management of the harbor in-house, at least since I've been here. And that started only halfway through the year. So, and I think you may have seen in some of the monthly treasurer's reports, harbor revenues are generally up. And what we're seeing here compared to the prior years in the harbor is there is still a deficit, but it is much smaller than, than in prior years. And again, that FY '25, the harbor was only managed by the town for half of that year. So, you know, you could potentially extrapolate from that, you know, harbor may actually, under our management, be able to support itself. You know, I can't make that conclusion with certainty, but it's, from looking at these numbers, it certainly is a possibility.
So in the prior two, with those larger deficits, that was under that management. So just in 6 months, we've dropped that dramatically.
Correct, exactly,
Okay.
yeah.
4 years.
And then in the sanitation fund, finally, not too much to see there. We try to budget so that the cost of, you know, the trash service is about equal to the revenue that we're gonna bring in. It doesn't always work out exactly, but we're pretty close there. So overall, you know, again, excluding those things noted in my note down here, we're about 937,000 in the black for FY '25 with all of our funds together. Finally, this last page, I'm not going to bore you too much by explaining this. Pretty similar to the monthly chart that you are accustomed to seeing. The same revenues, the same specific sources of revenue are called out here as are called out in that monthly chart, but in this case, we're just comparing end of year FY '25 to '24 to '23, all of the end of year numbers for all these revenues. And the only thing I do want to call out here is, of course, you know, we did have a reduction in the real estate tax rate in FY '25, which I think explains why that biggest source of revenue is a little bit down from prior years.
That's still surprising though, because we had
140,
so many more homes and,
120 to 140.
yeah.
Well, we decreased the real estate tax to I mean, at the time we decreased the real estate tax, it was going to reduce our real estate tax revenue.
Gotcha.
So, I mean, we get the new assessment from the county, and the first thing we do is figure out what would our real estate tax rate be if, you know, if we're gonna equalize, what they call equalizing the real estate taxes. So you look at the whole assessment and say, how much would we have to reduce our rate to basically bring in the same amount of money from these increased assessed values? And that's the first thing we do, and then it was reduced beyond that. So,
Right.
so we were expecting a decrease in revenue despite the increased assessments.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's like 80 grand, something like that.
Okay.
But were we expecting to make up that delta because of additional homes?
That's what I was, yeah.
I feel like that was the math we did.
No, it's the math. It was because we had excess amount of money left from this. Same thing we got going on
Yeah.
before. We had excess left, so instead of putting it back in the general fund, we decided to cut taxes because the county jacked them up so, well, I can't say they jacked them up. They went up so much.
Got it.
They reassessed them way up, so.
You don't have to
know,
be kind.
Well, they know where I'm going with it. So we ended up kind of taking a little bit of a bite out of that, a little bit, not a whole lot.
Well, you can look at what we just said, $937,000
Yeah.
It's a surplus.
settled after fiscal year '25 settled, so.
Okay.
We're still ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, who knows where it'll fall. Probably the same thing.
There was just two things I wanted to say with regards to the soft closure. In the past, when we worked on our budget, we always used the prior year because we hadn't gotten to a closure point yet. this now allows us to better understand what we have available to us as we go into fiscal year '27. So that's a good thing.
If I may, it would be not a good thing for me not to remind you all that these are unaudited.
That's right.
So I just wanted to make that point. We don't expect any significant differences at all, but there's always that chance when you're dealing with unaudited financials.
Well, the whole fiscal year budget is a projection, right?
Yeah.
So whether you, it just, we have more intel relative to the bottom line than we had in the past.
Absolutely.
Which
A
I
lot more.
appreciate.
A lot more.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to mention, you know, we talk about 19 million. We have already committed over 4 million in the current fiscal year '26. Right? We've done a whole bunch of transfers when we put our fiscal year '26 in play, and we have already drawn from that. So it's not 19 million, it's 19 million minus 4 point something.
That's earmarked, but not yet.
Well, some of it will be spent during fiscal year '26.
Correct.
Where we're in, yeah.
Yes, yes. It was earmarked in '25, but not used, is what you're saying.
Yeah, but for
Some
real-
of it's been used.
For real property or real assets?
Well, in individual line items, you know, in something, the capital.
Yeah.
We have all these transfers in and out of our funds, and all I'm saying, we have transferred already from fund balances into our projections for fiscal year '26 expenditures to use that funds. Now, we may not when it comes down to the end of the year, but we will be using some of it.
Yep, sure.
All right, so just want to put that in perspective.
Well, if there are no other questions on the report, and yeah, well, let me just briefly underscore what both Mary and Paul kind of hinted at, is that this is our first time doing, attempting to close our books without the help of our auditors. So, first of all, if there are any comments on the format or other information that would be more useful to you, or a different presentation or anything like that, we definitely invite that. But also, yes, I think we do expect, our auditors, every year, there are always some adjusting journal entries that they have. So we try to keep that as minimal as possible, but it's not my expectation that these numbers are gonna remain exactly the same.
Question for you. I mean, how'd you feel about it? Did it help you guys out more? Or is it more burdensome to do it this way? Just curious. I mean, it helps us out. I mean, how we look at it.
I mean,
Is it a lot more?
I think it's helpful, and as for extra work, I think we do the work every day, and this is a result of tallying that work.
Right.
So if it works for you all, it's probably helpful for everyone.
yeah, I mean, for me personally, it's just work I would otherwise do. I just have to do it earlier in the year, so it's kind of 6 of one, half dozen of the other. And if
Well, at
it's
least you're not getting bull rushed at the end of the year, having to cram it in.
fair enough. Yeah, true. So, yeah, no, we absolutely don't mind.
All right.
All right. So I think I'm up next on the agenda as well.
You are.
All right.
May I add one more thing?
Absolutely.
Today, we got our first request to get some information to our auditors, who will be in town for their site visit next week.
Okay.
How long does that process take, Mary?
It's 3 days on site, and then a lot of back and forth afterwards. So last year was lengthy, so a month or two before we see a final report. I would think, Adrian, what do you think?
Yeah, I would say, yeah.
Should be a little more streamlined this year, I would think.
Well, it's the same audit firm, right?
Yeah.
It is.
You would think
we have
after
the
a while.
single utility
Right.
that made it more complex for us last year.
Okay.
Yeah, I think in terms of them actually getting the report back to us, it probably just depends on their workload on their end and whether we're.
So theoretically, we could have it by the time we're sitting down to do the budget.
We would love that to
That would be amazing. Yeah, okay, great.
All right, going to B, 26 mid-year.
All right, so this one, I'll just briefly kind of call out a few of the things that are mentioned in the agenda item here. So as we know, we are, I believe we're voting on this tonight. We were under the 1% of the total budget that would have required us to have a public hearing. So this budget amendment affects 3 funds. I'm going to actually skip the general fund to begin with and come back to it, just to jump onto the capital fund here. So the capital fund is basically no additional appropriations are required to fund the capital fund. We are just moving money between different expense accounts. And the rationale for that is detailed in the note column here. I'm not going to go through all of this unless you would like me to, but if you have any questions about the rationale, I can answer the questions, and I'm sure.
I think most of this we've already approved in the town council meetings through vote.
That is correct, Paul. And so I guess some of this, I saw the meeting minutes and wasn't clear whether you had actually voted to approve it or if it had just been kind of town manager had been given the approval to move forwards on it. So some of this actually may be simply formalizing stuff that
Okay,
you're
but just to
already.
be clear, we did vote to move the monies because that discussion came up. We didn't feel we could authorize town manager to move ahead without the budget to support the items. So,
Okay.
just to be clear on that.
Okay,
Correct.
okay. So, but in any case, no additional appropriations required for that fund. And then I suppose we can skip back to general fund here. So our philosophy in approaching this is basically solicit input from department heads, see what the actual needs are on the ground, and then go back and say, do we actually have the money to pay for that? So as you know, government budget has to be balanced. So the revenue increase here of a little over $46,000 is not necessarily meant to say, and you'll see it's in dividends and interest that we're predicting increased revenue. That's not necessarily meant to say that that's exactly what we expect to receive, but it's to say we expect to receive at least that much money, at least enough to cover these expenses. So again, the line items here, the notes column provides rationale for most of the larger ones, and I'm not going to go through them line by line, but I'm happy to answer any questions if anybody wants to call out. And I think many of our department heads are here who could provide some additional detail if there are any particular lines that we're curious about here. But bottom line is that this $46,166 is what all these additional expenses are going to cost. And because we budgeted very conservatively at the beginning of the year with respect to our return on our investments, and interest rates have not fallen quite as quickly as anticipated, we project that we're going to make at least as much more dividend and interest income, at least that $46,000 to cover these expenses. So then finally on to the harbor fund. The biggest adjustments here, since as we all know, as I already mentioned, we're really closing in now on our first full year managing the harbor, and business is much better than we would have expected based on the numbers we were getting from Cape Charles Marine Services. So these, if you look at these additional expenses, so we're looking at a little increased overtime and seasonal wages, two things that we did not really know what we were budgeting for because we had not managed the harbor before. The merchant service charges, those are basically our credit card transaction fees. Internet and cable services, you'll see a little note explaining that. The biggest one down here is fuel for resale, and then immediately below that you'll see miscellaneous goods for resale. So those are basically, we're doing better business than we expected, but we have to buy more things to sell. So that's also reflected, those increased sales projections are also reflected in the revenue. So quite likely we will, we may receive more revenue than we've projected here, but at the very least here, we're projecting that the additional harbor fuel sales, the additional sales of the miscellaneous harbor swag and snacks and things like that are going to cover all of the additional expenses of the harbor. So yeah, I think
Because our estimates there were very conservative as well, not knowing when we took it over and then seeing the success. I think
Correct,
when we
yeah.
get real numbers, it's going to be,
yeah.
Do you have any explanation, Paul, as to why there's been no traffic in the marina? Your revenues have flatlined the last 4 weeks.
not a lot of these halls have icebreakers.
See the harbor a couple days ago? Good grief.
I've never seen it. 22 years. Not like that.
Ice skating.
Yeah.
It's not like walking into a freezer.
Charles ice hockey team.
There you go.
Can I
Thank
ask
you.
a question really quickly about
Absolutely.
the merchant service charges?
Oh, yes, to me?
I'm sorry, yes.
No, that's fine.
I'm assuming it's because we're doing more business that we're paying more fees. But
Yes.
my question is, do we need to consider looking at a different service provider? We can't?
It's tied to DOCWA, am I right, Paul? Will you explain that a little bit?
The DOCWA is our reservation system, does all of our point of sale, our transit reservations, and their contract is the 2.9% that they charge us, so we're tied into that.
So they're making a lot of money off of us too?
Well, most of that's a keyed rate too, because they're doing this online, so they have to key it in by hand. So unless you swipe it, that's really, it's anywhere from 2.8 to 3.2 on key rates. There's nothing you can, no.
Okay.
I mean, I'm
Well,
paying
they don't
that.
key it in. You put up your card on DOCWA and you have the account set up.
It's still
And
being-
then once you do it in, you just,
it's
it's
still
the-
keyed.
it's just their fee. It's a totally different fee over
I know, it's-
over your MasterCard or Visa fee, correct?
No, it is the bank service charge.
Right.
Yeah.
They're charging us.
But does DOCWA have a fee as well?
No.
Okay, that's it.
Yeah,
We have
that's the
annual,
key
it's
rate.
annual registration fee, but that's the monthly.
So,
Yeah.
well,
Gotcha.
wait, are you asking the question of the town, are we going out of pocket or are we able to charge that back to the consumer?
You're allowed to legally,
You are?
yeah. You
We can
can.
charge, if they use a credit card for dockage, annual or seasonal dockage, we charge 3%.
Yeah.
But not on transient dockage or fuel. We just have the prices kind of.
To
flex
cover it.
that.
Okay,
You just don't see it.
you bake it into the price instead. I mean, you're gonna do great this year and are on track to do wonderfully, but it seems like a hefty sum for a fee, but if it is what it is, it's, you can do it. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions for me on this?
Mr.
Thank you,
Mayor,
sir.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve this proposed budget amendment.
A second?
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Let it be known that motion is passed. We're moving on to C for the Mason Avenue electrical upgrade. Hello there.
Looks like somebody punched me in the eye, and they didn't, I just had cataract surgery, so don't stare at my eye. All right, this is not an action item, okay? This is where we are, and we're coming to you to look for some guidance on where we should go. So you'll recall, I guess it was in the spring, when the budget was being developed, the town was wrestling with what to do with Mason Avenue Electric. And an IFB had been put out, a bid had been received, it was over $400,000, and there was some confusion about what was included, what was not included, what the intention was, and all of that. Council did budget some money in this budget, $164,000, and I was asked to go unravel. So I had a walk with the contractor, the only contractor that submitted a bid, and he was gracious enough to take me for a walk. And we walked Mason Avenue, we had a good discussion. And it's a mess, we'll put it that way. It's a complete mess. The idea of let's upgrade Mason Avenue Electric was essentially premature. There are a lot of issues on Mason Avenue, particularly on the north side of the street. South side's pretty much okay, not too bad. North side is a basket case. And a lot of impediments that exist, oversized trees with gigantic roots that make it very, very difficult to run electrical conduit. We have, one of the comments the contractor made is that, some of these impediments went away. Instead of having to bore, I could saw cut and do trenching, and that's a lot cheaper than having to bore under all this stuff. So I'm not going to read my presentation to you. You can, you can ask questions. But we need to correct this stuff before we start putting new conduit and wiring in the ground. Because if we don't, we're going to wind up kicking ourselves later. Number one, it's going to cost more, it's going to be more expensive to do it the way it is. And then we're going to kick ourselves later because, now we have to cut this because we're going to redo a planting bed and that type of thing. So we need to pause, take a look at this, and digest it in bits and pieces. So, for example, I don't know if you had a chance to look through the presentation, but I've lived here for 20 years, okay? I've walked down the north side of Mason Avenue, I don't know how many times. There are 2 handicap spots. Well, there are 4 now because we put 2 new ones in. There are two pre-existing handicap spots. There's no ramps. So somebody with a wheelchair has to get out in the street and go all around the corner to get back on the sidewalks. We need to get ramps in before we redo the electric. On the south side of Mason Avenue, we have a crosswalk that ends from a handicap ramp that ends on the south side of the curb. We need to get a handicap ramp in before we put electric in. We have 6 trees that are massive, and they're right in the way of running new conduit. They've got to go.
I'm sorry, say that again?
They've got to go. They're gigantic. And if you look at those areas where we have large planting beds, we have insufficient room for a sidewalk, for a normal 5-foot sidewalk between the planting bed and the property line. In one case, we have 18 inches. 18 inches of right-of-way left. So these problems really need to be corrected before we start putting new electrical wire in the ground. So
we are suggesting that we take, I think it's around $85,000, that's the estimate, to correct these problems first. We do have in the budgeted amount a $50,000 grant that Main Street secured only for an electrical upgrade. So we're suggesting that what we could do is we could take that money and run the infrastructure, wiring, junction boxes, and garden pedestals from Harbor Avenue to Bay Avenue, where none exist now. It's pretty easy. It's just a 5-foot sidewalk and a strip of grass. Probably could consume that $50,000 by doing that, so we wouldn't have to give up the grant. So we need to start thinking about this in basically 4 chunks. South side of Mason Avenue, there's no real problem. We don't have any voltage drop problems like we have on the north side because of undersized wiring. The contractor said it's very likely that they could intercept the existing conduit and put in junction boxes and garden pedestals without running new conduit. The original IFB called for running new conduit. Why? I don't know. So that's chunk 1. That's pretty easy. Chunk 2 is what I just described. Take that $50,000 grant and put in the infrastructure from Harbor to Bay. Chunk 3 is the tough one, and that's deal with the north side of Mason Avenue from Beach Street to Harbor. And we got to remove trees, we got to put in ramps, we got to narrow up those planting beds that are way too wide so that we have at least a 5-foot right-of-way that people can walk on. And then we put in the conduit and the wiring, and the junction boxes.
Through boring? Through boring for that?
Probably would be able to saw, cut, and trench.
Even if you do these beds and walkways and...
Yeah, you're in the bed.
Inside.
You're in the bed. The alignment of the conduit and it's aligned with the light poles, so they would still line up with a narrower bed. So you could. He believes that he could saw, cut, and trench instead of having to bore, which will reduce cost. And then, of course, the 4th chunk. There's a desire to light Strawberry Street between Mason and Randolph. And that's the 4th chunk that we need to think about.
That's on the west side, right? On the west side.
Well,
There's lights
kind
there.
of your choice.
There's lights on the east side.
Not the cutesy street lights, not on
Well,
Strawberry.
not the Keating one, but there's.
Yeah, they're the highway lights,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
horrible. Wherever we put the street lights, we've taken down the highway lights.
Right, gotcha.
But that would be the 4th chunk, is put that infrastructure and get that conduit wiring in and put the light poles in. You only need probably 3 per side.
Can that be done before let me rephrase that. Can the grant that has already been secured be used to do Strawberry Street versus
Sure could.
Bay,
I don't think
Harbor Bay?
I don't think that's gonna be enough.
Probably not enough.
It's not gonna be enough for either
It's a
one.
lot of concrete they gotta go through.
I would,
Harbor up to Bay is all dirt. That's really easy to do. That's why I think 50,000 would work there.
I understand. I just think the priority should be Strawberry Street. And
Well, you can put an
What's
RFP.
on-
There is
What's-
nothing from Harbor to
there's,
Bay.
there's 2 houses and the Northampton Inn,
Correct.
right?
Mhm.
Right. I would rather see us use 50,000 and additional funds that we've already set aside. What did we set aside? $150,000?
64.
64.
164.
We put that on hold pending
Yes.
these discussions.
Yes, we put
Correct.
it on hold, but it is still in the budget,
Mhm.
right? Okay, so we have $214,000.
No. 164 on the expense side, 50,000 on the revenue side. It's 164,000.
So that.
Oh, and that
164
164 is including the 50?
Correct.
Okay. I didn't know.
I didn't
I didn't think it was
I
either.
thought it was in addition to the 50.
Yeah, but that.
No, it's just on the revenue side
It's
of
on the
our
revenue side.
ledger. The rest comes from fund balance.
Right.
Sure.
Right?
You said.
But you're suggesting that we would
164,
use some
that's
of
the
that
numbers.
budgeted money towards these preparation-oriented things to get ready to be able to
Yes,
do a larger
yeah, I mean,
project?
of the 164, 50,000 on the revenue side is only for electrical work. That's the Northampton County Tourism Grid.
Yes.
Question, on the handicap, isn't that VDOT's responsibility?
Yeah.
Just curious, because
Uh,
they
no.
did put all those ramps in over the years.
Yeah, two
It'll-
right in front of my office. that-
Yeah,
No, but I'm
Don't
saying
need
for
to
the
be used.
handicap,
I
you
mean, we
think,
could advocate for that, but it'll probably be 10
I think
years.
if we can
It's
send
done.
the guy up and send him a letter, say, hey,
So
can
we
you
have
put ramps in here?
$164,000 at our
Because they put the
disposal.
handicap.
Correct.
That's already budgeted, yeah,
It's
correct.
already budgeted. No matter,
Yeah,
So why-
I mean, it is their quote responsibility,
Yeah.
but it's like anything, it's when they have the money.
Yeah, no.
But,
I-
but
You know?
no, I was just going to say, on doing all that other work and everything else, is he saying there is no way to run this conduit with everything that's there?
No, you can't.
At all?
You can, but
You
it's,
can.
It's gonna be more expensive. Yeah, I'd
So I mean, we take all those out on that side. I mean,
That's gonna look
it's going to be,
weird.
I mean, Festive Friday's not going to be festive. At all, for 50 years.
Yeah, that's gonna be a
I
big
mean-
hit for those trees.
but some of the trees that have been planted in the last, I mean, depends what you plant. And like what we're doing as a part of our tree planting initiative, those are gonna be some pretty nice sized trees. And if you look at the ones that were planted like right in front of Chase's soft serve there, that are lit up, those are probably some of the most beautiful lit up trees on Mason Avenue, and they're crepe myrtles. I mean, I don't know if we have room for crepe myrtles, but there are things that would grow. Those are just so, they've been poorly maintained, they were never professionally trimmed over the years, they were just kind of randomly planted.
Do you remember the tree in front of Bailey's?
Oh, yeah.
Not the
remember
one
that?
in front of
That thing
Bailey,
was
where,
massive.
yeah.
That was a massive tree.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you're right, VDOT, it technically is VDOT's responsibility.
Well, I'm just saying, if we can cut some
Yeah.
budgets and sending a letter to them saying, hey, can
When
you
does
put
it
in
get done?
Doesn't matter. I mean, I'd rather have
does
them do it. Well, why are
You
we
can't do
spending money
conduit until
when
it's done.
we shouldn't be spending money on stuff like that if VDOT's responsibility to do it? And I'm just saying, advocate and send a letter to them. Hey, can you do it?
Or give us grant money to do it.
Yeah, I'm just saying,
Corrective
I mean, it's
actions,
small,
though,
it's
wouldn't
small,
preclude
not
us
big.
from doing the electrical on Strawberry, right? Do we
No,
need ramps?
we'd have to come up with an estimate. My sense is, well, it depends on what you want to do. Do you want to put in the infrastructure only, or do you want to put the lights up too?
I would put the lights
Put
up
the
as well.
lights up.
Absolutely. If
That's the
we,
whole-
infrastructure doesn't do us, I mean, yeah, it's there, but that's just,
Yeah. Well, you
I'm with Terry,
you
we're gonna
can-
do it,
you can
let's do it.
count- You can count on $10,000 a light bulb, so that's 60. Plus saw cutting and running the conduit and electrical.
I would tell you though, if you looked at those two areas that you're talking about, like right now, really because of the fact that they've put lights on all the awnings down Strawberry Street, they light that up at night. And if we do the restroom and we do something on that side of the street as well, it's pretty well illuminated, that corridor at night. And although there's nothing technically between the beachfront on Bay Avenue and
Harbor.
Harbor, it is a major thoroughfare. Like I watch it every day right out my window, 12 months a year. I mean, people flock to the sunsets from Mason and they stay down there till dark and then they're coming back and it's dark down there.
It's the only dark spot on
Like-
Mason Avenue.
The Harbor and Mason
all the way
is a
up,
really
except for
dark
that.
spot because there's no overhead
That's true.
light really in that area. And
But we can't, I'll tell you that we won't be, for $50,000, we won't be able to put up the lights.
okay, so you were just talking about infrastructure down there, yeah.
How many lights is that? 4 or 6?
It would be, do I have it in here?
Harbor to Bay would be probably 3 again, right?
No,
Both
it's longer
Oh,
than you
both
think.
6, okay.
It's 400 feet. And and roughly 90 feet between light bulbs.
Yeah. It's 60. That's 60 right there just for the
Oh, I did have it
poles.
in there. Thank you.
So we're
I thought I had it in there.
110,000.
Okay, so 6.
So it's the same cost is it would be to put 6 lights up on Strawberry? Why, because it's dirt and not?
Yeah.
Correct.
It's a big, big difference.
Big difference.
It'll be
I
six
would be-
figures for Strawberry for the infrastructure.
I wouldn't
The
be
fa-
surprised
the
if it
fa-
comes
the
back to
foundation for
$250,000.
one of these light poles is 3 feet deep and about that around. So think about having to cut up Strawberry and putting,
There's a lot of power under there. There's a lot of, all those meters that are under there. It's not gonna be, that is not gonna be an easy job. I wouldn't be surprised if that comes in like $250,000.
for Strawberry?
Yeah,
I
I
don't
bet.
know about that.
I'm not gonna stand here and
If the
do an
contractor
estimate.
that's doing it is listening, you did not hear that. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm just
I mean,
saying,
we'd have to, we'd obviously have to look at it very carefully.
there's a lot of
and-
stuff
and
under that tree.
Coordinate with Enoch to see if there's anything underground. I don't think there's any electric under the ground
Yeah,
there.
you got that pole coming right up across the street over by Edible Picasso's. That giant ass
Oh, that,
wad of
yeah.
wires going up. That's all underground.
But you're right, there are utilities, there are water and sewer utilities on Strawberry. It's a lot more difficult than doing the Harbor to Bay
Yeah.
section.
And you're
Well,
not, you're not gonna have a choice. to
You
go
said
over
this
there.
wasn't an action item, so I mean,
Nope.
what I think is that we should definitely figure out a way to take advantage of the grant and not just lose it. And that we
Amen.
probably need more information about, what kind of the relative costs between some of our options and how we can actually utilize the grant could be used. And then, I don't know, maybe we fine tune some of these other estimates, the numbers that you've put on things. I mean, I don't know how you do that in the governmental process without putting out an invitation for a bid, but
Well, eventually you're gonna have to put it in the can, right?
yeah.
And you're gonna space out the dollars,
Yep.
at least have a target for how big the breadbasket is.
Yep.
And he just walked it with you, obviously no numbers were talked about.
Just generally what costs more and what costs less, I think, yeah.
I mean, he was kind enough to do that, and certainly we can't press an individual like that for firm estimates.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
So what are our next steps on this?
We would like to move forward with something.
Yeah, I know, I would.
Yeah, but it's not an action item though
So,
tonight.
so as Bob says, I think that we need to start taking some trees down. I think we need to take some of the flower beds and move them back so that we have 5 feet.
Well, you've got a sheet that
Yeah.
shows
Yeah.
all that aspect, right?
Right.
But I think we need to figure out where we're gonna go first, because I would not wanna do that. And then it sits with nothing for another 2 years because we're not gonna do anything on Mason. If we're gonna do Strawberry and we're gonna do Harbor to Bay, then we don't do a darn thing on Mason until we're ready to do Mason, my opinion. And I don't know what anybody else thinks about
Yeah,
that.
and all I'm saying, you're gonna put it into your 5-year forecast and say how we're gonna spread that money and how big is that pile?
Because as we've all seen, nothing's happening tomorrow. Nothing's happening in a year. I mean, I would hate to see our Mason barren and then sit there another 2 years and we still don't even have infrastructure.
But we can put in trees though.
Yeah, I
We
don't
can take
think-
out these monsters
yeah.
and put in smaller trees that will grow to the appropriate size. We can put them in immediately.
I don't support spending money on taking trees down when we've got Harbor to Bay dark and we've got Strawberry dark. I'm looking at these numbers here really quickly. What is that? $70,000-$80,000
Yeah.
in corrective action for something in the future that we might do.
I
I'd
agree.
rather use that $80,000 plus the $160 to do Harbor and Strawberry, or
Because as we,
I'm sorry, Mason from Harbor to Bay and Strawberry, and not start digging stuff up now for something we haven't even talked about as a group.
right, and just like we've seen, as fast as the stumps have gotten done, a tree can be out in a day. So
Yeah.
we do not need to get these things taken care of that fast, just because, now the cut-ins, go ahead, get VDOT, put them in motion right now, because it's gonna be 3 years before they do anything. Let's get the handicap ramps put in right now, absolutely.
So you
And the
don't
beds,
wanna-
if you wanna do the beds,
So you
whatever.
don't want to spend money on handicap ramps.
I'm with Andy. If there's a way to get it from VDOT, let's do it. But if not, I don't want to sit here for 10 years either waiting for VDOT to just run through the motions with us and telling us, oh, we're not putting it here because you've got it here and here.
Because they're gonna come
Is our civic
supervise it.
center, the Civic League sidewalk efforts include handicap on where we're proposing?
Oddly, there are handicap ramps at every corner
Right.
Yeah.
on Fig.
Wait, VDOT
There are
put
no
those-
sidewalks,
yeah,
but there are
VDOT put
handicap
those in
ramps.
10
Okay,
years-
so we're
10
not
years
adding
ago?
any there, that was my question.
Yeah,
Was it
weird.
10 years ago they put those in? Something like that. Yeah, 10,
Or like
12
we
10,
said,
12 years
we
ago?
go to VDOT and ask for money from them and we'll do it ourselves. I mean, that's fine.
Just remember, they're gonna come inspect it either way.
That's fine.
If it's not done right, they're gonna make you tear it up. Okay, I'd rather have them do it.
I'm just here to tell you, they're not gonna give you us any money,
Okay.
okay?
Well, I still think we ask. There's no harm in asking.
Correct.
Yeah, we owe it to people to ask, but then I don't think if it's not gonna happen, I think those are things we need to
We do.
remediate.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
I
and we
agree.
do it, but I don't think we just start digging up curbs now and start putting them in, and I don't like making it sound as though somehow we don't want handicap ramps. That couldn't be further from the truth.
Right.
We want them, we just want someone else to pay for them. Totally reasonable. And we want the people who should be paying for them to pay for them. And if they won't, then we'll do it ourselves. But I'm really, really uncomfortable with like just completely moving the ball on this from what was started as lights on Mason and is now turned into tear up Mason, is what it looks like to me.
Without a doubt. And if we're not ready to move on Mason, because obviously Mason's going to be the biggest number. If we do Mason,
Oh,
we're
it is,
talking a
it is.
huge number.
It is.
So let's just take, eat an elephant one bite at a time.
Yes.
Let's just start with Strawberry, start with Harbor to Bay, and then as we get to that, let's put that back into the
But I
picture.
think your point is that, and it's hard to do this without actually having numbers to look at, obviously, but that you've been told without being given numbers that if these obstacles were not present, then the whole equation could change dramatically, and we might be looking at
Good.
much less than we originally discussed, earlier or last
Yeah,
year.
490,000.
But, who knows?
Right.
I think
That's a win. Hopefully, that's the case. but-
Absolutely a win and makes a lot of sense, but I don't feel like we're in a position to make these kind of decisions or discussion
Agreed.
right now, because this is a whole new set of circumstances.
We're not,
and
yeah,
purposes.
but the purpose is
I
not
realize
to
that.
ask you for a
Yeah.
decision, it's to
So
discuss.
can I try to address some of it too? I think part of I walked with Bob many times too. We went down there to do an assessment. And I think what was driving us was we didn't want this to be about Christmas lights.
Okay.
Okay? So we
Agreed.
wanted this to be about infrastructure so that Mason Avenue would be addressed appropriately. And what we found is that we have a lot of complications that's making this cost way more than what it should. And so as we walk through, the sidewalk to me is a massive problem and Bob's right, it bottlenecks in many sections. So in order to think about, we always want to do a plan before we just do projects. And I think that that's what's caused us to take a step back for a second to say, should we have a plan? Instead of just doing a project that we're going to come back later and go, man, why didn't we do it the right way? So by stopping for a minute just to say, let's do this plan, what should it look like? And that's where we came back. We actually met with Main Street. They have a program where they get free design work. And we've asked them to step up. Can you help us think about something that can be a template that we can use for Mason, free at cost, for us to do this appropriately? And that's where we came up of trying to place some guidelines of what is appropriate for a sidewalk to walk through. Well, if it's 5 feet, if that's the minimum, that means we're going to have to adjust some of these flower beds. Now, unfortunately, when you look and you make your line of sight to see that, it would aesthetically clean it all up. That's infrastructure. That's important for this Mason Avenue. By correcting that, some trees would have, because they're in the middle of that, they would have to be removed. We can come back and say our goal is to focus on the problem areas to widen that. If you don't want us to think about creating a good plan, aesthetic plan, because this is part of the electric upgrade. It will be cheaper for us to fix this now than it is to fix it later. And so, I mean, nobody wants a bare Mason Avenue because we put trees back in. Maybe we can try to focus on not taking trees out and focus on, but I do know that there are some places where the bottleneck is a tree that's causing that. So I think that's what was driving this. It wasn't to try to turn it into a different project. It was like, let's do it right. Let's not just do a half-hearted project. Let's correct it. Bob put a lot of attention into it, and it was ultimately what's driving us is to do it right, to do the right electrical upgrade so that it does light up the area, not just Christmas focused. Because I think that was what was driving us in the beginning, and it allowed us to come back and say, let's not think that way. Let's think infrastructure so that we can correct the problems.
And let me add to the point that we're not talking about ripping every tree out of Mesa Avenue. We're talking about 6 trees. I believe it's 5 on the north side and 1 on the south side. There's still plenty of trees, and to Clayton's point, we can plant decent-sized trees. I mean, in the park, we planted trees that are 10 to 12 feet high.
But by moving that flower bed, the flower bed still is appropriate size to put a tree in. Instead of putting it right here, we just put it right here. So it's, I guess I'm just trying to, we're not gonna just let it look bad. We're gonna try to use the money that we have and do it in segments as opposed to, you know, just putting it in and we still have problems.
Has there been any response from Main Street on the design part of it? Anything come back from them or no?
Not yet, no, they're still working.
We've had a meeting
They are
to
working on it?
discuss,
All right,
yeah,
good. As long as they're
what
working
it
on it.
should look like.
Yeah.
But no, we don't have any final
But
things.
the-
Because they're also on the national side, they can, hopefully they come up with some infrastructure grants for that kind of stuff. Because if they, I mean, on the national side, not always state level, they have bigger grants they can go after too.
Tara, you have something to say?
Oh, I thought you needed a roll up.
No, no,
Okay.
okay. No, I mean, go ahead, please.
I think you're right on target with a plan, but this is coming in out of left field from what our initial plan and discussion was. And I think we need to have further discussions about these corrective actions. But I don't think that discussion needs to impede progress in other areas where we can move forward, including, as you suggested, Harbor to Bay and Strawberry Street. And I feel very strongly about Strawberry Street being a priority. I know what you were saying, Andy, about they've lit it up themselves, but I think that was by necessity because there were no lights there. I don't think they had any, I'm saying they as businesses there, ever had any intention for that to be permanent. It was stopgap until we were able to step in and fix it for them. And I think it's important we do that.
If that's direction of council, by all means, we will pursue that.
Sure.
And I agree with what you said, Rick. I mean, if it comes down to it that's what it is, that's fine. But again, I think we start in other areas and I mean, it's been that way this long that I would hate to start there and then make no progress and then move. Yeah, I just have strong feelings about that as far as that goes. I mean, I'd love to have a plan. I got it. And all the bids can come out saying all this will be done. It'll be the way you want it, bid it up this way. But until we're ready to do it and take your bid, it's going to remain the way it is. Because I mean, it's we saw how fast the one came down in front of the hardware store. It was 2 days, done. And that was a massive tree. So it's not like something that has to be done today for a project that's going to be done 2 or 3 years down the road. That's just my opinion.
I see.
Bob, can I ask about on Strawberry? I need to put a design together, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And that's not Main Street, right? It's going to be a design service that we have to.
Well, no, Main Street is, they have a conceptual design already. Their consultant does for Strawberry.
I need a PE designed set of drawings to go out to a contractor. Who's doing that?
For, we don't have that.
Well, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
we don't have it and we need it, right?
Well, maybe not. I think
Can you
we,
put light poles in without a PE design drawings, set of drawings?
yeah,
Does it
we've
have
done
to
it
be?
before.
Well, that's what I'm asking. I'd be surprised that we can get away with it, but
Yeah, especially gonna find.
all I'm saying
all
is,
that
right
other
now, if
stuff.
I have to have a design, that's gonna take the next couple months to put something together if you get direction, right? And it takes dollars in order to do that. So, you're gonna have to design before you decide to be putting anything into the ground or cutting up the ground or what have you. I need
Or
paperwork.
what if we put it into the bid that they bring a design?
Well, that could be, and it would have to be a design build kind of contractor that has the capability.
I think most of them have CAD systems now to do that.
I mean, I have,
Okay, it's not a CAD system. You need to be the professional engineer stamped on drawings.
Right,
So-
well, that's what I mean, that they have sophisticated CAD systems, let's put it that
well,
way.
I have from our other projects, existing cut sheets and specifications for both, the council adopted a standard light pole, sole sourced from Spring City. I've got all the specs on that. I've got the specs for the foundation and that type of thing. So that could be rolled into an IFB.
All right, I'm just looking, if we need it, we have the ability to spend money in order to do that. If it takes a month or two to crank out, we can move on that.
And it's an added expense though, so then it'll be cutting into the 164.
I'm asking the question, who
No, I'm
is doing
saying
the
is,
drawings? Either
no, I'm
the
saying that
contractor
would be an
comes-
added expense is all I'm saying.
No, I have to do it anyway. You
You
think
have to
this
do it anyway.
contractor is gonna do it free themselves? They're
Oh,
gonna
I see what
charge
you're
you
saying.
for
So
the
it's gonna be
design
part of their
side.
Yeah, it's gonna be
design,
built
okay.
into
They
it.
got liability for that.
But at least they would be doing it, we're not putting out the money first for, again, a project that just sits. That's all I'm saying.
So what I'm hearing is we're gonna pursue infrastructure at the end from Harbor to, or Pine to Bay. Look for infrastructure.
Harbor to Bay,
Harbor to Bay,
Or
infrastructure, we'll get a bid for that. And then we'll look at Strawberry Street, working with, construction drawings enough to be able to get a bid appropriate for that project. And that's what we'll pursue.
You could probably look into it when Clelia did the addition upstairs after that whole debacle over there. They know what's under there, right, in that general area, on that
there
side.
shouldn't be nothing under there now.
No, I'm telling you, go look over there, right in the middle over by Edible Casa. Look at that power going up that pole. There's power
Let me
over
ask you a
there.
question just for clarity. Harbor to Bay is just infrastructure. So we aren't even tapping into that $50,000 grant.
No, that would be,
Even
that,
if we
that would
just,
be it.
That would
so
be the-
this whole conversation initially started with, let's do Harbor to Bay, right? We talked about, let's do Harbor to Bay.
that would be the $50,000 grant.
How if it's only infrastructure and not putting the lights?
Because we were gonna
It's
do it in
electrical.
phases.
It's still electrical.
Still
Okay,
electrical.
so that's okay with the grant, you cannot actually have lights at the end of this, it's just,
It would be part of that.
okay.
Because
I-
it has
that's what I
to,
wanted
the
to make
grant
sure.
has to tie to that project.
Okay, thank you,
Right.
that's
You
what
would-
I wanted to make sure.
You would
So
have
whether it's
conduit and
finished or
wire and
not.
all that stuff, but you
Yeah.
just wouldn't have the light poles attached.
That's all.
Okay, but we would then put the light poles in with our.
For another project. That would be another phase.
Didn't we do that on some of them?
Because that money, that
Didn't
is not
we do
enough
that
to finish the
somewhere?
project. So we would do it so we can get the infrastructure in. And then, like he said, 4 phases. Then one of those 4 phases would include that we would appropriate.
But it wouldn't have to be, it could
60,000.
actually be that one phase, could be infrastructure
Yes.
and lights.
Yes,
Boom.
yes, please.
We
Oh,
could do
thank
that.
you.
Right.
Yeah,
We'll
get
just-
something visible.
I guess the part
Yes.
that we have to figure out, we have 164,000.
What's in
And that's what
camp?
we're trying to,
What's in
if we
camp,
do
by
those
the
2
way?
projects, we're saying we'd like to move forward with that money for those 2 projects. And we don't know if that's gonna be enough to do those 2 projects, but we know it'll do infrastructure for one, and we most likely could do the other one.
Did we set anything?
We don't know until we get bids
Did we
though.
set anything aside as in our camp
What was
set
that?
up? Do we have anything set aside in our camp for that?
I don't
Because
know.
we already have infrastructure stuff already in there. Was any of that in there?
Well, for this lighting, I think it was only this year,
Right.
164. I don't know
So
if
it
we
was
parked,
just that
because
number.
we were talking, one side of the street was 164 and the other side was even
490,
300.
500.
Right.
I don't know if that's in the camp
Yeah.
right now.
I don't think the camp was ever updated.
So again, just my
Do
opinion,
that.
if we're gonna start Harbor to Bay and do infrastructure, why don't we just focus on Harbor to Bay and do the whole 164, put the lights up and get it done? As opposed to start Harbor, start Strawberry, and now we've got 2 projects that are now sitting, and then it's got to come back to council, then we've got to vote again, then we've got to do the whole rigmarole to get it done, and now we've got 2 projects started and nothing finished. I'd rather see something done, personally.
I agree, but I just don't know that I want that thing done to
Well,
be
whether it's
Harbor Day.
Strawberry or whether it's Harbor, we can decide on that and vote on it. And if it's Strawberry, great, and if we have to get more money, then it has to come back to council as well, and we vote on more money and
But
get
if we-
Strawberry done.
If we focus just on Strawberry, that grant would, it would work with that one too.
It would work with anything we put in
So we
electric,
could go straight Strawberry.
correct.
Focus that one.
Well, I'd say.
So I think we pick one of the 3 and make that phase 1, my opinion.
One of the 3, what's that? I'm talking, help
Mason, Strawberry, Harbor to Bay.
me. Okay,
Pick one.
I like it. My pick's Strawberry.
Not tonight.
In case
We're
anybody-
not putting it to a vote
Yeah, I
this
would
evening.
rather put out an RFP for those 2
Well,
projects.
but we need direction, that's what I'm saying. If the direction is Strawberry, we're gonna work on Strawberry.
Yeah, but if you gotta put out an RFP to find out how much it is, I'm telling you, Strawberry Street is gonna be really expensive.
Well, that's fine. Let's put out bids on both, and then we can make a decision off of that. I'd leave Mason off the table at this point.
Yeah, so
Agreed.
you can't do this.
Does everybody agree with that?
I don't, but I'm just one person.
Wait, when
You want to
say
get a
it-
bid on all 3?
We already had
Well,
a
I mean,
bid.
we kind of have, it's non-electrical. I mean, I believe in a path that solves immediate problems that are also tangible. They're not lights, but we're not talking about the grant right now. We're talking about places where people can't access the sidewalks, even people who can walk perfectly well, trip on that curb and on Strawberry Plaza. And we have sidewalks where, I mean, you watch people just struggle and get their stroller stuck trying to walk down Mason. I think it's
So to that
Clown
point,
show.
I think that should be an entirely
Yeah.
separate discussion. I think we should bring that up and do the cut-ins and put up the ramps as a totally separate from all this that we're talking about.
Yeah.
And put more money into the budget and look to do that. I think.
Agreed.
I would say in general, I'm not, Paul, you'll hate this, but like, I watch us spend nothing personal.
Oh, I
Paul.
hate that. Oh,
I know. You can tell me in advance. We spend like money, I feel like at the drop of a hat on the harbor walkways, and I go over there and there's like new shade structures out by the restrooms, and like, when it comes to town, we talk stuff to death and we can't even get like our broken trash can lids replaced. I feel like I'm not suggesting we spend $20 million, but we're not broke. We can afford to like do, I mean, in the scheme of things, especially when we do already have some money budgeted, it's okay once in a while to spend a few dollars to make the place more safe, serviceable, attractive, whatever the.
I agree.
Totally agree.
I'm
This
100%
is
on board with
coming
that.
Completely out of left field.
Well,
to suddenly
it's not
say,
because
let's
he's
get
not
Sixth
asking us to
Street
say
done.
anything about it. He's telling us what they're thinking,
No, but
and he
they
didn't
want
want a decision.
They want direction, and I'm not prepared to head in this direction right yet.
Well, you seem to want him to give direction to do Strawberry.
Well, I think
Strawberry was
I
part
think
of
we
the
need
discussion
2
from the
directions on this evening. One being, we make the town more accessible, and I think that's an entirely different discussion than what we're talking about with the electric.
I think that there is a relationship between the two. If it brings down the cost of what we need to do down the road, and you're talking like less than $100,000 on that page, and I know we're not here to vote on that. We can have a separate conversation about whether these are priorities and necessary things that we need to address, and if we agree that they are, great, let's do them. And if you want to say that it's not directly associated with this topic, fair enough, but I do feel like it's related.
Absolutely. I don't understand why the town needs any direction from us to reach out to VDOT and say, hey, our curbs are atrocious, and start that conversation. I keep hearing over and over, VDOT's not gonna pay, VDOT's not gonna do anything, but are we having those conversations? Do we have somebody in Richmond at VDOT talking about what our town looks like? To me, again, like Adam's saying, these are 2 separate things, and yes, there's some collaboration between getting the lights done the right way and fixing the sidewalks, but that conversation should be ongoing. If people can't access our sidewalks from the street with wheelchairs or strollers, and I've seen people fall, you don't need us to sit here and tell you to start calling VDOT. We should be calling them.
I wrote it down.
Great, can you call VDOT?
The hotline.
I'll be on it.
All right. Anybody else?
Yeah, just in the scope of things, we're running out of this year, this
Right.
fiscal year. So I don't care what you put on the table, it's gotta be something that the town staff has enough staff time to do it.
Yep.
And that the contractors can turn around and actually do what we're asking them to do. And to me, we're running out of time
Yes, we
to
are.
address all these particular options.
Do we have time to put it on the regular agenda for the next, our meeting? We don't, do we?
No.
No.
So
So
you
it'd have
just,
to be a month, right? Libby?
Well, we need time, like, we've heard loud and clear, we're gonna give you plenty of time in order to look at packets. That means we have to have all of our stuff to, and time to give to you, and then we're not gonna have it ready for the next meeting. With bids and getting,
No way.
appropriate.
No way.
No, I'm not talking about bids. I'm just saying that if we could put it into the next meeting, that we could at least have a vote as far as which way we want you to go.
I don't think we're gonna have
Focus on-
enough information to do that,
All right.
personally.
Well, then we delay it again. I mean, that's fine. Just like Paul said, we're running out of daylight, so.
Well, we can structure an IFB and put it out there on the street to do harbor bid. And what I can do is I can put in as the base bid, just put in the conduit, the wiring, the junction boxes, the garden pedestals, and as a bid alternate, put in the lights. We'll supply the
That's
lights. I can buy the lights for around $4,000 a pop. And we can put in the bid alternate, they put in the foundations and install. We'll see what we get back. And then you'll have something. And we can apply that $50,000 grant to that effort. So we can do that. I'm not saying at all that we can get you anything that is reasonably credible on Strawberry at this point.
Yeah, they're gonna have to come in and survey it, they're gonna have to,
It's gonna take too much time.
yeah, they're gonna survey it, they're gonna end up metering it to see where all the power is, they're gonna have to figure out where all that
Yeah.
stuff is underneath, and they're not boring it. No way. There's just too much stuff there.
I
I
can
know
reach
that
out
just
to Nick and
because
find out what he
I-
did find out when he did do everything over there with the,
I believe
because
you
I
not.
mean, he did see a lot, obviously.
Yeah, but I also did, when I worked for Schneider, I also we did Rebecca's for the Bettis building. So we ran into a lot of stuff over there on that side, which is, what is that building called now?
Bettisville.
It's still built, it's still the
Still
Bettis?
Well, 7 Strawberry.
Yeah, 7 Strawberry. It keeps changing its name. But I know there's stuff over there that we ran into when we had to do that, because we had to cut in a sewage line and water line, because it
Oh,
didn't
it's
exist.
not gonna be easy.
No, there's a
Not at all.
lot of stuff over there.
Yeah, it's not gonna
So,
be
so is
easy.
council good with that?
with an RFP going out just for Mason from
Harbor.
Harbor.
Harbor to Bay.
And we've now decided that we're not looking at Strawberry at all.
Well, we can, but we're not gonna have anything back for the next
Yeah,
meeting.
it's just gonna be, that one's pretty complicated, I think.
And
Strawberry
so,
probably.
because it's complicated, we're opting to kick it down the road, is what it.
No, not
No.
complicated to get us information.
We can't get the information, it's
But
like
then
kicking
let's
it down the
start
road.
trying to get that information though, right? We're gonna have to vote on it at some point.
Yeah, but what Paul just said about staff hours, they've already got a lot of stuff going on, so we're just not gonna
Yeah,
inundate them
this-
with
I'm
even more
certainly
stuff.
not suggesting that they have it turned around right away. I'm saying what,
Still put out the RFP for it.
correct.
And that's still, that's.
Well,
gonna
there,
take time.
Paul's absolutely right.
Oh, no.
I know.
Libby, did you get that?
Harbor to Bay versus Strawberry are completely different.
Correct.
Yes.
And so is
And I
Mason.
can do, I'm not an engineer, okay, but I can do an IFB with the information I have to do Harbor to Bay. We have to hire an engineer to figure out how to do Strawberry. And I gotta put out, we don't have an engineer on staff, so we'll probably have to put out an RFP to hire an engineer.
But that I could see as being an expenditure over the balance of this fiscal
Could be.
year.
Yes, yes, so maybe we do that.
Could be.
That's what I'd like to see.
That's great.
Agreed.
Look at next year's budget.
Right.
I think that's a good direction.
There you go.
Thank you.
Because
Yes,
that-
I do too.
Has, you can almost, we should be able to complete the one project and then deal with Strawberry and find out really what's going on.
Yes.
I agree.
Agreed.
So they never submitted a bid in that last round for Strawberry? I thought that there was a piece of it.
There was one in there. It was a little difficult to,
Yeah.
There was a lot of what ifs.
They would have never honored it.
Right, in large part because they don't know
yeah.
what they're really running up
Yeah.
But they did. There was a bid. But it did not include lights. It did not include foundations for lights. It was basically just run the conduit and wire and light up some trees. That's all it was.
Hmm.
So, I mean, it was, the whole thing was a very premature
Mhm.
initiative.
As we found out. Anything else?
Yeah, that was, we could do it for this real quickly. It's like, okay.
All right, I think we know.
Yeah.
I think we
Thank
know
you,
where we're
Bob.
going.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Rick, what do you have for us this evening?
First, I just want to thank my staff just for how hard they work putting together the mid-year budget stuff and soft close. I mean, I know it's a lot of work, so thank you both. Also, just our staff, we know that we are working through the short-term rental software issues, and just letting council know that we're working hard to try to address those concerns. We're able to help one person in particular this week who was really frustrated, and I just thank Katie and Jeb both for immediately tackling the project, helped him, and it was a success.
Yes, I'm very satisfied.
So I'm just thrilled of just how we work together. It was great. I want to read a letter that I received. This is from Clearly a Shepherd and Mary Ann. And it just says, Dear Rick and Town Council, thank you for the generous donation of $4,500 for the Arts Center, Cape Charles, Inc., as your match for the VCA local government grant. The contribution will support our students in musical theater, art, dance, and music, as well as support technical needs of the organization and its performers. Your contribution is very much appreciated as we continue to provide the arts for our town. So they just want to say thank you. And
You're very welcome.
it's a good thing, and we are glad for it. I reached out to Ricky Wyatt with VHB, all these acronyms, and just ask him what's the update on the RTA US dot or grant, and unfortunately they still haven't awarded, and so that was supposed to go out in November. They have not disclosed anything. No one's been awarded, and they're still reviewing these things. So unfortunately, it puts us on a weird timeline because he was hoping for us to know something from November. Then he would go after another grant in the grant cycle with the Build, B-U-I-L-D. That's another US dot grant. That one is due at the end of this month, and he is not ready to submit on our behalf. He is planning to submit on our behalf at a later time if we don't get the RTA. He's still holding out for that. There's another grant that he's looking at as well, which I mentioned before, and it's called the Land and Water Conservation Fund State and Local Assistance Program. That one does have a match. It's a smaller grant, but he is still looking at that one. It's a little bit later in the season too, but he's watching all these closely, and I'm just glad that he is aware of these things, and at least I can give you an update for what's the latest he's given to me. Just to keep you abreasted on the Affordable Housing Committee that we have, these are just some bullets to keep you posted on what's going on. We've received responses to our detailed follow-up questions. So there were 4 originally, 3 were the ones that we went forward with. Out of those 3, we asked additional questions and needed responses back. They've responded back to us. We actually have a meeting tomorrow at 2 p.m. to debrief these answers that we received. And then we will most likely follow up with conversations and clarity at another meeting, possibly inviting them to come in and have interviews and things like
Anybody
that.
we can get some copies of that so we can see what's transpiring? I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah, what I would recommend is after the committee interviews and we're ready for a recommendation, you just get packets of information with all the material that we've got. That's what I recommend.
Yeah, and that's his last bullet point. So that's that one. I'm sure you're aware of social media stuff going on. I did put a press release just making sure that the community
the whole
understands that
hump.
we are not planning to tear down the hump. We're just in the preliminary discussions in our master planning. So that, you might have seen it, but I did release a statement.
I think that's fantastic, by the way. Thank you for doing that. And it really helps mitigate the rumor mill. So thank you.
Yeah, I've just never seen something happen that fast.
Oh, you've been around long enough.
Yeah. Just to let you know, I'm not here to receive questions, but just I'm giving you an update. I have received a call from the special prosecutors and so forth, and they are moving forward. So just letting you know about that. All interviews have been done, and they are moving forward. So. The same thing, just a quick update about the municipal building, the new municipal building that is in design right now. They're at the last part of doing the updates for our code and
Not gonna be much money left.
let's see what's, in anticipation for the review, the site plan and any necessary revisions that will be completed by the end of January. So we're at that part. Everything's on time, on pace. Update of the building drawings to reflect the new building code, like I said, and changes to necessitate the new site plan should be completed by the end of February. So we are targeting to do invitation for bids by mid-March. So that's still on pace to what we had said before. You will receive a draft budget calendar tomorrow. So we have a draft that we're working. There's a couple things that we have correcting that we found some errors on. So you'll see that tomorrow in an email, so that you can anticipate.
External organization.
Oh yeah, that's on another list. Just need clarification. I've heard it many times in our discussions. Just the external grants for organizations. It sounded like to me in the past that we were trying to get away from that.
Yep.
So that is clear. Okay, so we're not going to put that on the budget cycle then.
Correct.
Wait, we're not gonna give out any grants? We're not gonna give out any town grants?
You wanna say it? We've gone around that we were getting away from giving grants out just because it's just overwhelming, the amount that we were shelling out. It was a lot of money. So we opted, except for the art center and that, because it was a matching
Yeah,
grant.
there's a few of them that we still do. Fire department.
Yes.
Main Street.
Yes.
And the Arts Center. Those are things that we consistently do because it is arms of what we're doing. However, it sounded to me in discussions that we were going away from just doing grants for nonprofits in general.
Correct. Like Citizens for Central Park, we put on, that's for the town. It's put on concerts. That was one that we revived. So we actually have four or five that we deal with on a yearly basis. But then we get all these other people coming in and asking for money. And we've gotten away from it.
Okay, but we did
I don't
it
know why it's
last
coming.
year.
It was the same groups.
Yeah,
It's the
so
same-
the way,
same
I'm so
group.
sorry, the way it sounded was that we were doing away with grants. That's what I heard.
That's
You are
the-
not saying that, you're saying we are going to accept grant applications, but only from repeat groups? I don't know, I need clarity.
Yeah, we have a set number of groups that we've been continuing throughout the years, and those would be expectations.
Yes.
So we're not doing away with grants.
So we're going to put that on the calendar then, that we will have a deadline when we will still receive grants from external organizations.
Yes, right?
That is correct.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
That was what you wanted.
That's an organization.
Okay. Okay. So HR, I know Jody was here, but she's gone. She has been working hard with me we're looking at the PS system. PS is our way that we track our salaries and the projections for the next years to come. We are adding a component of merit, and so that is something that Jody and I have been working really hard on, and you will hear about that come budget time. So just a lot of work that's gone through that. Appendix G, I know that there was a committee that was formed to work through this with the Civic League. That information has been received back to us. I believe there's a meeting that's coming up with the Historic Review Board and Planning Commission, joint meeting. Okay. The staff are also going to review it and have notes as well. So when you guys get it back, you'll see Civic League Committee, the joint voice, and then we'll have staff remarks too.
No,
No.
no, sorry. The planning commission is now going to compile all of this and then bring just one presentation to town council of a proposed zoning text amendment on this, and if that's what they wish to take forward or not. So we'll end up doing a work session of planning commission and town council with a final draft. And then it's up to town council if they wish to edit that any further.
Okay,
Let me just clarify. The next meeting is with Planning Commission and Historic Board and Town Council?
No.
No. All right, so out of that
Historic Board and
meeting,
Planning commission.
go ahead, and out of that comes what, a recommendation?
Planning commission will then schedule a work session with town council, with what they're gonna come forward with the final draft of this proposal.
In other words, we're gonna give them direction.
So my question is then how are we going to have direction, or with our staff speaking into this?
They're gonna be at the work session with planning commission
Our
and
staff?
historic district review
Okay.
board. Staff is me, Jeff.
Okay.
Yeah, you're welcome to come too.
I know, I just didn't know that part was in, that's why I wanted clarity. Okay, well that's an update on that.
All right.
Hold on.
Nope, sorry.
So next meeting, I'm planning to be able to give you the core of the values that we've selected and details, and so we'll go through that, but we're pretty close, but I think we'll be ready by next meeting for the values to be able to share.
Is that the 19th meeting, February
Yeah.
19th? So I gotta add it to the
Yep.
agenda.
And then I've been working on a continuity plan, and that's just in case emergency. We have procedures of what we're going to do. I have a plan template that I've been working on. Where I'm going to go from here is to department heads to then look at it, create SOPs, and then have a binder, and then eventually something we'll present to council so that you know, in case something happens, what will happen. So that's all I have.
One other question, follow up to my question. If you heard anything from Canoni and this water thing?
Yes, they have come to an agreement. I got an email that is true from our attorney, and I should be receiving a form to sign any day.
All right.
Yeah.
Any idea, are they gonna start right away? I'm just worried about this rolling into the season, because March starts off, and if they don't get in front of that brewery and get it done, it's gonna be a disaster. That's what I'm worried about. Can't believe this thing is taking so long to get done. It's not, it's not saying the town's problem, but Canoni just really hosed this whole situation, because now we're gonna be digging up right in front of the brewery, right when their season gets to start. And I've already informed them, it's like I have no idea when it's starting. So the sooner we can get that information out, the better off, so we can be prepared. Because it's gonna be a lot of ripping up for those pipes to go in.
I did send an email to VAW just to ask him that same question. I have not heard back. I do have a meeting with them tomorrow to discuss the fire that just happened, and I'll be with our fire department, our staff, police department, and those who were involved. So we're going to debrief about the fire and how can we prepare for the next one.
So hopefully it's not gonna be the next one.
Well, we got some issues,
I know.
and so we were going to try to get ahead of it.
Good. Thanks.
Council, any comments?
Well, before you
Nope,
go, the
sorry.
strategic plan. In the strategic planning session.
Oh, yeah,
Halloween,
thank
we're
you.
gonna talk.
I need direction on this too. So we have it on Saturday, the 28th, And we're, my understanding is the planning commission will be invited, and representatives of Civic League, representatives of Central Park, and then, is there others?
Main Street.
Main Street. And so I'm trying to get direction as we plan for this. My thought would be 2 sessions, have a session in the morning and a session in the afternoon after lunch. The first session would be more debriefing, trying to create what's working, what's not, and then go into now making decision stage for the second one. Does that sound appropriate? And if it does, do you want everyone at all the meetings in making decisions? Or do you want the council planning commission in the decision making for the second one as we determine priorities?
Well, I just asked, I'd say everybody should be there feeding input until we get our priority system up. Now, whether the council alone approves that could either be at that meeting, or I'd suggest it brought back to an actual regular meeting or a special meeting for an actual vote.
Right.
Because I remember last time we worked through the list, and then when it was brought again, even though we participated, we made some adjustments based on public input.
Yeah. So you'll have the next meeting as well, we'll do a presentation on the survey results. So you'll have the results, and then we plan to bring those results into that meeting too. So we know, and what, I know you guys want to know all the comments, but we're summarizing them in categories so that it helps you understand them when you get all of them. Instead of you going, oh, I think I saw 3 times. We're going to have summaries to kind of show you details of the 400 comments that you get. So you can start seeing correlations in them.
So from your suggestion, then I'm hearing just 1 session, and then we bring it to,
Council for
To council.
for ultimate. yeah.
no need for 2 sessions.
Okay, so 1 session, 4-hour session.
Certainly don't want 2 4-hour sessions, so.
No. Preferred morning or afternoon?
Morning for me.
Yeah, morning.
Okay,
It's
on Saturday.
Saturday, yeah.
You're gonna
Okay, so
probably
if we
be-
do-
You're gonna probably be at basketball anyway.
If we do a morning session, would you rather have a breakfast, then have a meeting? Have a snack kind of thing, and then have a meeting, then have lunch?
Last time we did breakfast, I believe, and
We
a
did
lunch.
both.
We did both.
We did both.
Yeah, we did both.
Is it want the same then? A breakfast and a lunch?
Well, last time it was 10 to 2, so we had breakfast and then lunch and work through.
Yeah.
But if you do it in the morning, what are the hours that you want?
I would just do a breakfast. I mean, if we put too
Right.
much food there, everybody's gonna go to sleep.
Right.
Okay, so 4 hours is what we're gonna plan to do, so that means we have to make sure that we're gonna be
9
on
to
pace.
noon?
So I've asked Katie and Bob to also be part of the
Are
training,
you sleeping?
the guiding of this, so me, Katie, and Bob are gonna
9 to 1.
do this together.
I have a medical condition that doesn't allow me to get at 8 a.m. on Saturday.
So 9 a.m. it is.
9
wouldn't-
to 1?
I wouldn't.
9 to 1 works.
Yeah, I would not do it before 9.
Yeah, I agree
Okay.
with that.
That's fine. 9
That's,
to 1.
that's the direction I need, 9 to 1.
I'll be up for 4 hours already. It's fine.
I'll be at 6. I'll be at the gym.
That's all?
That's it? All right.
I think we owe him some more direction because they have to put something out about the grants. Because Rick wasn't here, and there was conversation amongst us last year when we were doing the budget about, wait a minute, this is getting, like, we need to have parameters for what type of grant applications we'll entertain. We can't just have our favorites, we can't just have this but not that. And we were worried last year in conversations that, you know, that there's no rules, there's no guidelines. So
Well,
I don't know if that happens right now, but
We had them at one point, so I don't know what happened to the wheels.
In our
fell.
budget books, we do get grant applications, okay?
Right.
There's a section on who it is, and depending on who it is, it's lifted up into our budget. And then we decide whether it stays, it gets adjusted or not. One of the problems was we had a late entry after our
Yeah.
close-off,
right.
and that became an issue.
But then we also got into a conversation about events. How do we do some events and not others? How do we give to this church and not that church? Again, I don't know if it's a conversation for right this minute, but I think it's confusing for people.
My recollection from last year was that it was a smaller, that last year's grant applicants represented a much smaller group of applications versus it used to be the Wild Wild West.
Yeah.
Right.
So I thought we were comfortable with what we were presented with last year versus prior to last year, which I wasn't a part of, so I don't know what it looks like. Is that the case? I mean,
Well, Paul said it the best. It's anything that really entangled something that had something to do with, like, Citizens Central Park, the bands, Main Street, which also does the marketing for the town, and does Main Street. It's two different jobs. And then whatever other grant we had, we had a couple other ones that we
worked
done.
at tying them into our strategic plan. I
Yeah,
specifically
right.
remember that. So I guess really right now, we'll have to, the plan should be that we do that again, but that means Rick needs to just open up a grant application and we.
Okay, so the framework is already there.
Yes.
But like, I feel like when Pam reached out
Okay,
to
but
us, she was like,
there's no grant application that he puts together. The individual line items become part of our budget. So you can see, grant for Central Park,
Yes,
X,
yes,
right?
but they fill out an
Yeah,
application.
but they still have to
They
That's
apply.
fill
right,
out-
that's right.
it's-
That form's available.
Yes, and that's what I'm saying.
Okay,
He needs
so
to
yeah.
put that out, yes.
And it has a preface. May I read the
Please.
preface?
Yeah, please.
too? So, the town of Cape Charles is happy to encourage third-party funding requests that could help contribute to the town's strategic vision and goals. However, please do not base applications on past requests, but on bona fide current need. Simply put, the more the request, the less likely it can be accommodated.
That's great.
Here's our guidance.
Yeah, we just,
Okay.
so
So-
we're just gonna do the same thing as last year,
gotcha.
right? At least that's how
That
I'm.
is correct. That
Yes.
is-
Yes, perfect, okay.
So this will be distributed to external agencies, and then you all will consider that.
And it'll be on our grant calendar.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I want to just give you a big picture of what's happening in Richmond. I've been updating the bills for housing and parking, and have been keeping you abreast of that, and it's always changing. But in any case, just big picture, what I've seen different this year with the overwhelming Democrat population in the House, they are taking things and just saying, this is the decisions we're making at the state level, regardless of how the localities feel. In order to make things happen, they're just taking it and saying, like let's say for ADUs. Last year, ADUs came to a bill and said, by right, ADUs will be allowed within all of Virginia. And that got pushed to the side. ADUs came back again. Same bill, and with coupled, there will be no parking parking zoning ordinance associated with it. That is now on the docket and is being pushed through at the state level. So what I'm seeing is the Democratic population there has overwhelming majority in the House. Senate is a little bit closer. State direction provided to localities, ADUs, parking, home building requirements. They're sometimes even saying we're passing legislative bodies and we're going and allowing administrative staff approvals. Okay? Eliminating, in some cases, conditional use permits. So all I'm saying is a bunch of these bills are being forwarded in a very different fashion than it has in the previous sessions. And given, again, the large population of Democrats in the House, at least, they're really pushing change through regardless of whether you like it or not. The one bill that I'm concerned about is forcing each locality to develop a plan to build 7.5% more housing units than you have. over a span of 5 years. I don't know how locality is gonna handle that, but that's what's happening at the state level. And if it's passed, we're gonna be stuck with having to figure out a plan to start building 7.5% over 5 years, beginning January 1st, 2028. So I just wanted to give you a flavor of what is coming through that is very different from what I've seen over the past several years as I'm following these bills. Katie, I don't know if you have anything more from your side.
No, and you're correct. Crossover day is February 18th. It's in 2 weeks. And what that means is whatever each bill in both sides has to be out of committee and ready to move over and swap to the other chamber for their consideration. It does look like that housing growth density allowance is going to be carried forward. It has momentum. So it is going to get debated in both sides of the chamber. I think the ADU one is really not a concern for us because there's a clause in there that we have an ADU ordinance in place, and so we're going to be grandfathered in, so we're not going to have to hold to that. There's a parking one. Again, I think we're going to be exempt from that parking. And when I say the parking, they're trying to remove any parking requirements in whole.
Even on the ADUs, even if we redo the PUD, even though, considering we have it in the historic district right now, will that carry over?
For which?
When the PUD gets redone for Bay Creek?
For which issue?
If ADU.
For accessory dwelling units,
Yeah.
the PUD is actually, it's not really explicit of ADUs.
It'll be new
it's-
if we do put it
It
in.
may not really be new because Bay Creek, through their homeowners association, has governed the accessory dwelling units. So, and I think the other one I just want to throw out, but I think this one still looks like it's got momentum, is because housing is the buzzword up in Richmond. Every housing bill, and I do mean there's something like, I don't know, 60 housing bills and some flavor got submitted this year, is to allow housing in all districts, including commercial.
Right.
That's the big one that still seems to be carrying through. It's not getting tabled yet. That's really concerning, and almost every locality has expressed great concern if you have to allow housing in your commercial district by right.
Yeah, I want to put a house up right next to us. Concrete towers.
Yeah, so to give you an example on that bill, 816, House passed it, Democrats 64, Republicans 35.
Yeah.
Party line.
Big momentum.
Oh, yeah, on these heavy ones, it's party line. So just be aware that we may have change in the future. We'll keep,
So definitely,
Probably a lot of change.
when crossover day happens, I think both Paul and I will be back. That's when we really will start needing to weigh in on.
yeah, some of the bills have crossed over, so they're already from House into the Senate. Oh, yeah, yeah, so.
Committee, and we know they're gonna be crossing over. But yeah, there are a couple more that are still working their way through committee status.
So I gave you an example today. I wrote one to DeSteph, Senator DeSteph. And just as an example, short and sweet, I oppose, here's the following reasons, and start adding up the letters as best you can.
Absolutely. Thank you. Anybody else?
Make a motion that we adjourn.
Oh, not yet. Hold on, I'm sorry. I've got two announcements that I've got to make, and that's just February 16th, town offices will be closed for President's Day. February 19th, town council regular meeting. Now your motion, can I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.